go through the Zoom meetings, and the Zoom meetings are going to be, they'll already be recorded and available on Blackboard. And I'm going to tack onto here within 24 hours. It's usually much quicker than that. So I'm going to tack, oops. And, well, I'll show you in Blackboard where it's at. So here's the Zoom meeting, and then there's going to be underneath this, there's going to be all the recorded meetings. So every week we'll have a recorded meeting underneath here. So if you click, oops. Okay. So if you click on the Zoom meetings, underneath here, there's none, because this is the first one, but it'll be in there. Okay, handouts, textbook problems, and practice exams are 20% of the course grade. And exams are 80%. All right. Now, well, let me see if I have it in here. I do not. I'm going to add something onto this. All right. Exam are close. Okay. The handouts, textbook problems, and practice exam, these are available in Blackboard. I'll make it in capitals, obnoxious capitals, so we all remember it. They're also emailed to you. Do we submit handouts? Yes. Yeah, everything we do in class will be submitted. So these are available in Blackboard, and they'll be submitted, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Let's make that green. Now the exams. These are emailed only. Oops. Exams are not available in Blackboard. So you'll get an email when we're done with the chapter. We get an email, and that email will let's see here. Your exam will be emailed, and generally you have about a week. You'll have actually a little more than a week. As far as when assignments are due whenever we finish them in the Zoom meeting, or whenever I send out the exam. They're due the following Friday. So we're Monday, so you have the Friday and then the following one. So you probably have, like, I don't know, 10 days or something to get it in. So you have plenty of time to get it in. And I always do that to make sure there's a weekend in there that you can work on it if you need to. So it's due on the second Friday after it's assigned. So, whenever we finish this handout, it'll be due the second Friday after it's assigned. So you'll have plenty of time to do it. And that way, if you do miss a class, you can look at the, whatever. You guys get the idea. Okay. Submitting work. Let's see how we submit work. Click on all assignments and exams. Here's our first one. Due February 2nd. I think that's assuming we finish it today. We'll see if that happens. If it doesn't happen, I'll back that up. It'll be February 9th if it doesn't. But anyway, when we finish the handout, you're going to click on this. probably upload your files, and we'll talk about how to do that in a second. And submit it in. Okay, now, how do you submit the work? Oops, you don't do that. Let's try a different one. Okay, there we go. So this is still, I'm still in Blackboard. This is in the all assignments and exams, the first thing. Okay, this is just going over what I said before. Okay, the format for submitting it. Basically, any way you can do it, you can submit it. You can complete the original document. So right in the handout, you can type it in with your answers and all that, and submit it the file. Don't worry about your name being on it, and it'll go right into your account. You can print them out and scan the documents, or do my notebook paper and scan the documents, or take pictures. Okay, so basically you can, if you scan it, take pictures, you can do it on notebook paper if you want. You can print out the documents, you can work right in the documents. Any way that you can complete it is fine with me. Okay, so taking pictures and all that's fine. Every one of these has an unlimited amount of submittals. Okay, so what does that mean? It means you can put in as many documents as you want. You could put in 100. I mean, don't do that. But, you could. They're unlimited amount that you could put in there. Now, if you submit something, suppose you submit something and you realize you submitted the wrong thing, or you put it in the wrong, assignment. You trying to put in the chapter 3 handout, and you put it in the chapter 10 handout thing, whatever. You don't need to contact me. You don't need to, get it reset or anything like that. Just submit it again. Submit the correct one in there. And it's not uncommon to see, students have 2 submittals or 3 submittals. I've given up to 5 submittals sometimes. And what I generally do to save time is just to go to the last one. So whatever the last one you enter, that's the one I go to first. I don't look at the first one that you probably, was probably being corrected or something. So I always just go to the last one. So if you do submit something incorrectly, wrong handout, you submit the blank, a blank sheet or something, it's not that big a deal. You can just go resubmit it. And again, I go to the last, I generally start with the last submittal and see if that's the one that, it's usually 89% of the time, that's the one I'm looking for anyways. Now, this is important. There are 2 types of files that you cannot use. These are not allowed. And I'll tell you why in a second. Zip files, which are window files, and page files, which are Apple files. Zip files and page files are both basically the same thing. It's when they take a lot of documents and put them into one. Blackboard doesn't like them. It doesn't like either of them. It doesn't like zip files, and it doesn't like page files, and it'll just show a bizarre loading thing in Blackboard. It never actually loads. So the only two, if you want to take pictures, absolutely fine. You can submit all, we give a 10-page handout, submit 10 pictures. Nothing wrong with that at all. Do not put them into a zip file or a page file, because that it doesn't like, and I can't pull them up. It'll show us loading for months. Okay. All right. That's probably enough of that. Okay. Let's go back to the handout. Grading. Okay, and basically, we go through, we do the introduction into cost, and then we go into the actual this kind of decision-making stuff. And this is where we're going to spend most of our time. If we get time to do this other stuff, we should get through activity-based costing. That we should definitely get through. Some of these other ones are not that big a deal, and quite honestly, you've already had them in You should have already had them in accounting 211. Kind of those are really hard kind of rehashing those. But anyway, so we're going to do the first handout, and that's going to be on kind of basic cost accounting. And then starting with chapter 3, we'll start actually kind of making decisions and the importance kind of that as far as what we're doing as far as managerial accounting. Any questions? Either there's no questions or you guys are already sleeping.
Excuse me, do we have to create a new account on the Pearson? Because I don't have any Pearson account for any classes. This is my first class with the Pearson.
What happened? I'm sorry.
I don't have any Pearson account because this is my first semester that I in my class I am having the Pearson class, like all the textbook and everything.
Okay. So you already have it?
No, I don't.
Oh,
This is my first semester that I have Pearson. I
okay.
have only Connect.
Did you have the Laker bundle? It should be included.
Uh, I have the Laker book bundle, but they did not give me any details for this class that I have to log in or something else.
Okay, I believe, let me share my screen with you. I believe when you click on the ebook, you're right, they don't really, it doesn't really spell out. If you click on this first one, I'm not sure if the second one even works, to be honest with you. I believe at that one, you click on that and it'll ask you to set up the account. It should not ask you to make a payment because you already paid for it. But this is the, well, this isn't going to be what you're seeing because it's going to. Well, Mark's getting off. We messed up a little on our homework. Generally not. Generally not. And two, if there is something, yeah, okay, let me get out of here. If you do, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like using the online one because they're hardwired. You know, you do the problem. If you goof it up, it puts it in as a 0 or something, and that's one reason I don't like doing it that way. But generally speaking, and if it is messed up like so bad that I can't give you a grade on it, you can always resubmit it. Homework you can always resubmit. So let's say you turn in the homework and maybe you don't do 2 of the problems, whatever. So you get like a 60% or something, whatever it is. You can also you can yeah, you'd have to use the school's email. Yeah, use your school's email because that should be the one that's linked into it. And again, if they ask you for a payment, do not make a payment. Let me know, and I will get that figured out. But by the way, if you want to know, the reason we had a problem with the textbook for this class is actually assigned to a different teacher. Oh, where's the link? The link for it is in Blackboard. Oh, oops. And under ebook, let me zoom in. Oops. So under ebook, you click on that, and you'll see. It's just I believe it's this first one's the one that we're actually looking for. This is the one that showed up when I actually initially did it. Initially put the account in, but I believe this is the e-text that we're actually looking for. So it's under ebook, third tab down on the side. And again, they should not ask you for a payment. You've already paid for it. Oh, if you don't have the Laker bundle, you can get the book anywhere. If you don't have the Laker bundle, you can get the book anywhere. Um, you know, I'll tell you what. Let me, as far as creating an account, I thought that if the Laker bundle, you just click on it, it'd take you automatically into it. I tell you what, hold off on the ebook. And I apologize for that. I wish I had a better answer for you. But you should not have to, especially if they ask you for a payment. There shouldn't be a payment on it. But if they do ask you, has anyone already put in their Laker, excuse me, a Roosevelt account and made a new account with Pearson? Has anyone already done that who has the Laker bundle?
I am doing it right now.
Okay. And we'll see how it works out. We'll get the Laker bundle thing figured out. It's and I don't mind. We can do what problems we need together without it for a while. Okay, well, yeah. Let me see. Am I done with the handout? I can't remember if I'm done with the. Okay, I think I'm done with this. Okay. Well, I tell you what. Let me ask around some more about the.
It says that I can use any access code or I have to purchase. It's giving me two options because I don't have any access code.
Okay. Do not put it. Don't do either of that with them. I will. Let me get a hold of. Let me get a hold of our bookstore and ask them.
Okay, if you want, I can share the screen what is showing me.
Yes. And let me hold on. Give me 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Actually, yes. Yeah. Go ahead. Please share your screen so that I can take a look at it. Oh, I think I gotta stop sharing. Hold on. I don't like sharing anyways. All right. Let me get a screenshot of this, and I will. I apologize for this. Hey. Okay. Yeah. And let me. Yeah. Let me. Let me contact the our bookstore and just make sure. Yeah, because you shouldn't have to pay for anything. And if there is a. Yeah, well, yeah, actually, when we wear the books, we didn't say anything. Yeah, if you have the Laker bundle, from what I understand, the Laker bundle, you won't even need the access code. You'll just be able to click on and if it's linked to the class, linked to your email, and you should automatically be taken in. That's my.
I think when first time we start using Connect, it also gave us the access code and we have to register for that course also.
Yeah. Well, Well, there's two. So this is Pearson. Connect is through McGraw Hill, and I'll have to see what what if there is something different we have to do for for the Laker bundle. I'll tell you one problem with the Laker bundle. Great program, don't get me wrong, and we had it last semester. Last semester, and it worked fine for the classes I had it, but I believe there's only two schools in the country that do anything like this. There's us, and there's one there's a school out in California. So it's not common knowledge how to link these up. So anyway, and these are bugs. You gotta work them out. But I will send that that screenshot to our bookstore rep. Actually, it's a Barnes and Noble. They're the ones that manage it, and hopefully we'll get an answer soon. I apologize for this. It's a little bit of a hiccup here, but it'll be okay once we get it going. I gotta close my solitaire game. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to. Let's go ahead and get started on the handout. And you can't see what I'm doing. So in the handout, by the way, I sent out a new handout. If you have the older handout, it doesn't have this first part in it. You can look on the email; it'll have it in there, or in Blackboard. I don't know if you need it or not, but so this is the handout, and I do have a problem from the textbook. Actually, is built into this handout, just in case what we had going on today, we couldn't get into it. So, okay. So let's go ahead and get started. The types of businesses that you generally have, the easiest one that we do, this is what we start out with in beginning accounting, is service business. This is things like landscaping or consulting or something like that. Then we move on to the merchandise one. And this one's a little more complex. If you guys remember, this is like, remember the LIFO, FIFO stuff? That's the merchandising one, a little more complex. And then we have the manufacturing one. Now, manufacturing, you probably covered this at least some in accounting 211. And the stuff we're gonna do today is very similar to that. But manufacturing is when we're actually making something. So we're making it ourselves. We're not buying it from somebody else. We're making it ourselves. Okay. A few definitions here. We'll do the direct materials and direct labor first. Okay, direct materials. Directly to manufacture the product. Okay, so let's say we're manufacturing bicycles. What would be some direct materials?
Tires.
Tires.
Chain.
Yep. Yeah, tires, chain, seat, wheels. If we're making, like, say, the frames or something like that, we may need, if we're actually manufacturing the frames, we may need steel. These are all things that are directly tied to the product. And generally, finding the cost for direct materials is actually usually easier than most things, direct material and direct labor. You can say, okay, I paid this much for these tires. Each bike has 2 tires. It's really easy to say, okay, we paid $5 for each tire. We got 2 of them on the bike. There's $10 worth of tires on the bike. it's very easy to directly tie them to whatever you're making. So direct materials are usually not too difficult to directly tie, to the whatever you're making. Okay, direct labor. Is a payment to employees directly creating the product. Okay, so if we're manufacturing bicycles, these are the people that are actually putting the bicycles together. And again, this is usually fairly easy to trace also. I'm trying to make these stand out a little bit. Okay. If you have an employee, Sam puts the tires on the bicycles. Sam can put, tires on bicycles. Sam can do 10 of those in an hour, and we pay Sam $28 an hour. It's real easy to say, okay, this is how much directly goes into this bicycle. $28 divided by 10, whatever, that's how much goes in, is directly tied. So direct costs are usually not a problem because they're directly tied to whatever it is you're doing. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the problem, and I'm going to talk about overhead in a minute. But let's go ahead and do and get started on this first one here. Oops. Okay. So here is these are the accounts we're going to use. I think I'm going to bold these so you can see what I'm talking about. Bold these two. Okay. And the way I'm going to show you guys do it, you may have had this in another class. We're going to use the T account method, and we're using the T account method not just because we're accountants, but it also is a nice way to think about the flow of it, because everything comes in on this left-hand side, and it goes out on the right. So this is kind of the flow of it. So things will come in over here. And they'll go out on this side. Okay, so direct materials will come in. As we use the direct materials, they'll go out. And when they go out, they go into the work in process. And same thing down here. In, oops, out, and then it goes, in and out over here. So it kind of looks like this. Here, let me. you know, it kind of flows, everything flows into this work in process. That's when we start working on it. Eventually we finish it. And then the ultimate goal is to sell it. And that's when it goes here. And then by this time it's left the place. So this is kind of the flow of it. It goes across, you know, kind of flows across the paper. So even if you don't know debits and credits very well, it's not too difficult to kind of get the hang of the flow of it. Okay, well, let's take a look here. We're going to start out on this left-hand side with the beginning amounts. So we have beginning direct materials, we have beginning work in process, and we have finished goods, and we're only going to take the beginning numbers. Okay, so let's see here. Direct materials. I'm going to get rid of my flow thing here, so we get a little closer. Okay, so direct materials, we have $20 in our direct materials to start out with. Our work, let me get rid of these. Our work in process, we have 65 sitting in there. In our finished goods, we have 140. Okay. We're not going to do anything with the ending yet. We're going to do the ending at the end. All right. Let's go over here to purchases. Now, for purchases, we have a choice of direct materials, direct labor, or overhead. If we're purchasing something, what are we probably purchasing?
Materials.
Yep, good. So we had 20 in materials, and we just purchased 250 more in direct materials. The easier one now is direct labor, which, as you probably surmised, goes in direct labor. Okay, now for the tricky part. We have indirect labor, which is not direct, like insurance, sales, selling. Okay, so let's go back up here. I got to talk about overhead. I'll give you a definition of overhead, and then we'll kind of go into kind of helpful hints of what we put in overhead. Okay, overhead. Overhead consists of all necessary missed an I. Indirect costs for the manufacturer of the products. Okay. Now, this, if you look in the textbook, you get something along those lines. Overhead consists of all necessary indirect costs for the manufacture of products. Now, the question is, well, what's necessary? Okay, so we're looking at keywords, items that are definitely overhead. If you see the keywords of any of these keywords, manufacturing, indirect, oops. Well, overhead. Anything that says overhead is overhead. Factory, plant. Usually things like equipment. There's kind of an exception to that, which I'll talk about in a moment. So whenever you see these kind of keywords, I may be leaving some out here. I'll add to this if I need to. But anyway, these are kind of the keywords you see. When you see these words, these go into overhead. So these are the kind of the magic words that when you see these, they go into overhead. Now, keywords that are not overhead. Not overhead. Anything that says it's direct. Anytime you see anything that says selling expenses. This could be marketing and customer service, that kind of thing. Administrative expenses. When you see office, so office equipment, office whatever, unless it's for the factory, so if it's equipment is in the factory, then it's if there's any of these tacked onto it, office, it's going to be so these are kind of some of the keywords that will tell us that this whatever these are not going to be things like sales. Yeah, that should probably get us there for now. We have to add to it. Okay. So going from our, and these two lists, by the way, are the ones that are probably the easiest to use, just because this is kind of a vague term. This is kind of vague. Okay, keyword things that are not over. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let's go down here. So indirect labor, is that overhead?
Yes.
Yep. So going down here, just that quick, I forgot how much, $25. Factory insurance.
Overhead.
Overhead. Yep. Get that magic word factory in there. This is indirect. It says factory. And by the way, indirect labor would be something like, I didn't talk about that. Indirect labor would be something like a janitor. A janitor is necessary to keep the place safe, keep the place clean, all that kind of stuff. They're necessary, but it's much more difficult to look at a janitor and go, okay, how much of that janitor goes into this bicycle? It's much easier for someone who's directly working on the bicycles to say, okay, they make $10 an hour or whatever. the janitor that's doing different things throughout the day, and it's very hard to point at the janitor and say how much of that janitor is in this bicycle. So indirect costs are, that would be an indirect cost. It's a cost. It's necessary for the manufacturer. You got to keep the place clean and all that, but it's not direct. It's very difficult to know how much of that janitor's salary is going to be put into the bicycle. So that's what an indirect cost is. In this case, indirect labor. And I was talking too much and I forgot to put it in. Okay, so 15. Okay. And at this point, how about sales? Are sales in there?
No,
Selling administrative expenses?
no.
We're not saying these things don't exist. They're just not in the manufacturing costs. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to start moving this stuff out of these accounts over here. We're going to start moving across the page until we get over to this cost of goods sold. Okay, so our direct materials, we had 20 in there. We added another 250. What was it, 270? So we have 270 sitting in our direct materials. Okay, we send somebody out, and by the way, if we didn't make anything, there still should be 270 sitting in there, right? We send somebody out and they come back and they say, oh, there's 18 left in the direct materials. So here's the question. How much of these direct materials were used? We had 270, there's only 18 left. Oops, no, don't do that. So how do we get this account down to 18? There's 270 sitting in it right now.
Minus 18, and what's left is how much it was used.
Yeah, so 270 minus 18. I don't know what we got there. $252. Okay, so 252 of it must have been used, right? Maybe yellow, I guess. So we're going to put 252. 252 must have been used in our work in process. So here's our ending inventory. This will be what we begin with in the next period, whenever that is. But of the 270, 252 is used, so there's 18 left. So in other words, you can think of 18 is not used. So this was, type that in there, not used. So this is not used. We still have 18 sitting in there. Direct labor is much easier. There's not an inventory account. So we're going to take everything out of direct labor and put it into work in process. Okay, overhead. We're going to add them up. You could put them separately. I'm just going to add them up though. Usually add them up. 40. Okay, so that was going to be in work in process. All right, so now what we're going to do is add all these up. And it's time for mystery calculator. Uh, 439. Is sitting in our work in process. If we didn't finish anything, there would still be 439 sitting in the work in process. Okay, now we come up here though, and they tell us that our ending work in process, that there's only 70 of stuff we're still working on. So the question is, how much of this did we finish? We had 439 sitting in there, and the ending is 70. So of the 439, how much was finished? Anyone?
369.
369.
Yep. So 369 was finished. So that's going to go into our cost of goods sold. Uh, 140 plus 369, whatever that is. $509. Okay, so we had 140. We finished another 369 of them. Our ending finished goods is 148. So our cost of goods sold, the stuff that we actually sold, and by the way, the cost of goods sold that's the stuff that's leaving the place. It's kind of like, it's similar to like if cash, like cash is an asset. If you paid an expense, cash should be leaving the place. Cost of goods sold is what's leaving the place, but it's in the goods that you have. So is it? Oh shoot! I erased my calculator. Okay, 509 minus 148, 361. And so this is what we're sold. Yeah, so cost of goods sold is whatever left the place. So for instance, let's say that this is what we're manufacturing. Let's say it costs $5 to make it, and we're selling it for $8, right? So we paid $5 to make it, sold it for $8. We sold it for $8. We didn't make $8 on it because we had $5. So if it cost us $5 to make it and we sold it for $8, we made $3, right? So we'll have sales of $8 the cost of goods sold will be 5. And now think about it, when we sell it, this is gone, right? Whoever bought it is taking it with them. So this is an asset that we have for $5, but now someone's taking that because we sold it to them. So the cost of goods sold is the cost of that stuff that has left the place. We no longer have this asset anymore. It's gone. It cost us $5. We did what we wanted to do. We made it for $5 and we sold it for 8, but the $8 will be the sales, and the cost of goods sold will be the $5 that we cost us to make them. So it literally is. It's not cash going out, but it's a different asset. It's the inventory that's going out is the cost of goods sold. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do. I tell you, let me fill these in up here, and then we'll go. I think I'll do we'll do an income statement for this. It may make it more clearer. Okay, cost of goods manufactured. Cost of goods manufactured is what was taken out of the work in process and put into finished goods. So how much do we make during the period? We made $369. Cost of goods sold is what we sold, and that we already have is $361. Are these arrows making it more confusing? You won't hurt my feelings if I say so. So what was finished will be our cost of goods manufactured. So this is the finished. Oops, that's not what I need, right? And this is what was sold. And by the way, the difference between those, so you can kind of see that the inventory, we had 148. We made 369, but we only sold 361, so that's why that extra 8 comes in for the inventory. So we made 8 more units than we actually sold. And sometimes it just depends when you're making them and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do an income statement for it. I think where to do it. Oh, if I do it right here. Oh, I don't know. That may not work. I'll give it a shot. No, I won't. I'll do it up here. So here's what an income statement would look like for this. Okay, income statement would look like we have our sales. $620. We would subtract out our cost of goods sold. Oh, 361. And this would give us our gross margin. Gross margin or gross profit, either one. I think this textbook uses margin, but I think the 210, 211 book, I think uses profit. Same thing. Gross margin and gross profit are the same thing. Okay. 259. Okay, so we sold whatever this was. We sold them for $259 more than it cost us to make them, which is what we're in business to do, right? So we sold them for $620. It cost us $361 to make them. So this is going to be our profit on just those items. Okay, so the sales, we're not saying the sales account didn't happen. It did. It's just not part of the manufacturing process. And we still have one more account here. Selling administrative expenses, those are going to be subtracted. And again, we're not saying that those don't exist. They do exist. They're just not part of the manufacturing. And so this will give us our net income. There might be other stuff in there too, but let's assume they don't have taxes or anything. So what is that? 209. So this will be our net income for this. Oops. Question on that? Okay, let's go ahead to problem 2. And I think I'll be quiet for a little bit, but I want to go over, before we get started on problem 2, most of this is pretty much the same as we've seen before. What I want to do though is, let's identify those things that are overhead. So which items on here are going to be overhead? You know what? Let's take a break. Let's take a break. Let's say be back at what is it? It's 3 o'clock. Be back at 3:10. How about? Let's see. So be back at 3:10. We'll start on this one. Yeah, I'll change the due date for the handout. We're not going to finish this today. Okay, so let's take a look here. Oops, what did I do? I did something funny here. All right, so what's going to be the manufacturing overhead? And if you want to put it in chat, that's fine too. You don't want to blurt it out. Which account? Go ahead.
Salary, factory utility,
Yep.
miscellaneous overhead.
Yep. Good. So we have 3 of them there, and so those will be our overhead. These 2 are not, and we will go ahead and start moving the stuff over. Get rid of this. All right. So let's see here. I just realized these are not centered. All right. So let's see. 81. So beginning with the beginning, and you're going to end with the ending. If this is a little confusing, it's probably the first time you've done it with the T accounts. Okay. So all this stuff in there. This is going to be something different. It's not going to be in the cost of goods sold. And so now we're going to do the endings. So you begin with the beginnings, you end with the endings. Okay, so we had 258 sitting in this account. We go out, someone goes out and counts up how much is left. There's only 86, so we got to figure out how much was used. By the way, you really don't do this in T accounts, but if you want to put that in as a negative here, that's fine. The ending inventories are always subtracted. So I put that in there. Now, truthfully, you usually don't put negative numbers in T accounts, but if it helps, that's fine. Okay, so 172. By the way, if you ever see me put in wrong numbers, don't hesitate to either shout it out or put it in chat. Hopefully it won't happen, but if it does happen, please do me the favor of letting me know. The worst part is when the student comes up and says, "Where'd you get this number from?" And I look at it and say, "Well, I did it wrong. I got that number. Didn't mean to." Okay, 378 is sitting in working. All right. We tell someone to go out and count up what's left, and they come back and they say there is 74 in the work in process. So we had 378. We're working on there. There's just that quick. I forgot. 74 is left. All right. So this is what was used. So 304. So this is what was finished. So that stuff that was finished is going to go to finished goods. So we already had 58 in the finished goods just sitting there. We added another 304. So the total, this would be the total available to use a accounting doc. What was it, a 362? 304 plus 58. Yeah. So 362. And we tell someone to go out, count up what's in there, and they say that there's 48 left. So of the finished goods, 362 we had in there, there's only 48 left, so the rest of those must have been sold. 314. Okay, so let's see, cost of goods manufactured would be, what was, oh, these are sold. Oops. By the way, this can also come from over here, I guess. Maybe that'll be, these are the same numbers. Okay. Now let's do an income statement. Has anyone already done the income statement on this one? Copy this. The income statement on this one, if you did it, it's you're gonna have a little bit of a surprise. So 425 was the sales, 314 was the cost of goods sold. Selling administrative expenses were 120. So our net income was -9. We actually net loss. Any question on that? Let's see this. You get a screenshot of that if you want. Excuse me. Okay, on the next page, this one's going to be continued. I'm not doing anything. Okay, what we're going to do with the journal entries for this, being accountants, you get on the CPA exam and they give you a problem like this and you work it out. They give you a little dry erase boards. They're I don't know, I think they're like 12 inches or whatever, like size of a sheet of paper. Anyway, you do the T accounts, but then they might ask you to do the journal entries for them. If you can do the T accounts, you can do the journal entries. The journal entries are real easy once you learn the T accounts, because wherever there's an arrow, that is a journal entry. And feel free to abbreviate these. For instance, direct materials, you can do DM if you want. I'm going to write them out, but if you want to do, DM, DL. overhead. Work in process, you'll see this called WIP. Cost of goods sold, you'll often hear this called COGS. I was an auditor when I graduated. The first jobs I had were auditing jobs, and we were at an engine plant, and this guy kept talking about COGS, not knowing the abbreviations and all that. I thought he was talking about like COGS for the engines, he's talking about cost of goods sold. It was like everything that goes into the engine. So it took me longer than it should have to realize he was talking about cost of goods sold. Like, man, it's a lot. This guy sure is interested in COGS. It's cost of goods sold he's talking about. Okay. All right, so journal entry. So let's take the first one here. Went from direct materials. Direct materials was debited, and work in process was credited for 172. So coming down here, we will have, let's see, the debit is work in process. $172. And the credit is going to be direct materials. And by the way, feel free to abbreviate these. In work in process, you hear that called WIP.
Hello, Professor. Why do we get direct materials as a credit?
Where do we get what?
Direct material as credit.
Oh, it's because it's going down.
Okay.
So here's what's happening. No, it's an excellent question. This is an asset account. Do I have the debits and credits on here? I don't. I should have those. So direct materials is an inventory account. It's an asset. Work in process is an asset, and finished goods are assets. So these three are assets. And so what we're doing is moving it from this asset into the work in process asset, which will eventually become the finished goods asset. And then over here is when we sold it, and that's when all those costs leave. But yeah, these are all, so this is actually, we're reducing one asset and increasing the other. That's a good question. Yeah, so this is a, asset going up. And this is an asset going down. Oops. So, the direct materials will have 172 taken out, so there'll only be 86 left. Okay, direct labor will also go into work in process. I'm just going to copy it. I'll teach you guys how to be lazy like me. So work in process was 59. And it will be direct labor. And most of the time when you pay somebody, it's an expense, but when it's direct, when it's going into this manufacturing, you're actually, what you're doing is you're capitalizing that labor. You're actually putting that labor into the product. So even though, you're paying these people out, and usually that would be an expense, but when you talk about manufacturing, it goes into the product itself. How much does the product cost? Okay, and overhead Sometimes people do put the overhead in separately. I'm just going to put it all in at once. 57. So work in process 57. So that got all of these into work in process. Now work in process is, those are all debited, just like up here. So 172, 59, 57, 72, 59, 57. Okay. Next, we are going to let me get rid of these for a second. Here's the arrow from finished goods, work in process into finished goods. Okay, so finished goods is going to get the debit. Work in process will get the credit. Okay, so it'll look like this. Finished goods. Now this is an asset going up. They got moved into finished goods. I forgot how much. 304. And this is coming out of work in process. So work in process is it's an asset. It's being decreased because they're no longer working on it. And lastly, the stuff that was sold, let's take out of finished goods because it's gone now, and it will go into cost of goods sold. So this is the stuff that has left the building. It's not coming back. It's gone. 314 has been taken out of finished goods and goes into work in process. No, it doesn't. It goes into cost of goods sold. I'm lying. Okay, so this is again cost of goods sold. So cost of goods sold, it's similar to an expense account. It's goods going out, and that's coming from finished goods. So we no longer have these assets. They left the place. So we have 314 less assets from that cost of goods sold to come out of work in process. Now, that's not bad. We want to sell them. So the fact that those goods have left is actually a good thing. All right. And just for kicks, let's do these two. So sales and selling administrative expenses. Well, I'll assume both these are on account. So sales. Wait, what do I actually have? All sales line account. Okay, so sales on account. So on account, we would have accounts receivable. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so let's see, we have accounts receivable is going up. It's an asset. It's not spelled like that. Um, Okay, so accounts receivable is an asset, and we will have sales will be the credit. $425, I think it was. Let me check that just to be sure. Yep. Okay, and selling administrative expenses. Okay, so selling administrative expenses. I'm going to assume those. I don't think I put on there those are an account. We'll say those are accounts payable, which is a liability going up. Okay, so these first ones, what, 5? Those would be the ones for the actual cost of goods sold. These would be the other ones that would be not part of the cost of goods sold, but would be part of it for the income statement. What's on that? And again, if you can do this T account thing, if you do the T account, wherever there's an arrow there, wherever there's going from one to the other, those are all journal entries. So if they ask for the journal entries, this is what this is going to look like. You're just going to use those T accounts to kind of move it over. 3 and 4. Let me look at the hand. Let me look at the problem. All right. I think I'm going to assign this one for homework. So if you go to page 7, is that right? Yeah. Okay. If we go to page 7. So here's the data. This is like a textbook problem you'd see. All right, let's look at these. Inventory accounts. Which ones are the beginning ones? This is problem 2.
The first 3.
Yep. So these are all going to be the beginning. And these December ones will all be the endings. A little bit different format, it's not. Okay, we have direct materials, we have direct labor. Let's go through this list of things, though, and see which ones of the rest of these. So these 2, we know what these are. Purchase of direct materials, direct manufacturing labor, those are the easier ones. Let's go to these other accounts. Which ones of these are going to be in the overhead? I'll read them off. You guys say yes or no. Depreciation, plant and equipment. Will that be?
Yes.
Yep. So that will be an overhead. Plant supervisory salaries.
Yes.
Yep. Miscellaneous plant overhead.
Yes.
Revenues. No, revenues are the same thing as sales. Actually, no. Actually, I should put that in up here. Go all the way up to the top here. way back to our first few minutes. So sales or revenues. Actually, I'll put that as a separate line. They're the same thing, but if you see revenues, that's also not included. Okay, I'm sorry, back to where we were. Okay, here we go. So revenues are not going to be in there. Those are the same as sales. Marketing.
No.
Nope. Plant supplies used.
Yes.
Yes. Plant utilities.
Yes.
Indirect manufacturing labor.
Yes.
And by the way, if you're wondering what the plant supplies used is, what so why isn't that? Why aren't those direct materials? Those would be like things like cleaning fluids or so, whatever, like a janitor's using cleaning fluids or something like that, or it could be oil for the machines or something that's actually not in the product itself, but is being used. You still need to have those. Okay, so here's going to be the homework. See if you can figure out the cost of goods sold. We'll do the income statement when we come back, but see if you can figure out the cost of goods sold for 239. So, and by the way, next class when we go over this, I'll make sure that we're all on the same page with it. So don't worry about making a mistake. Okay, yeah, I'll put it that way. So, oops, what am I doing here? Okay, still doing it. Homework. Calculate the cost of goods sold. Okay, so calculate that. Maybe that look funny. Okay, so calculate the cost of goods sold for problem 239, which is right here. Use a T account. Yeah, and see if you can come out. And again, don't be afraid to make a mistake. Again, most of the time, we've only done 2 of these. You may have done these in a different class, but probably not. But anyway, yeah, so see if you can figure out the cost of goods sold that's dated. Now, remember, though, we have these, we have 6 overhead accounts. Any questions? Have you guys had enough fun?
So should we just do like the T accounts, or do you want the whole balance sheet and all that sales?
No, yeah. If you just find the cost of goods sold.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep. And again, we'll go over it. So we'll work on it next week. Yeah, and I'll send that screenshot to our rep, Anne Marie. Not that matters, but I'll send it to her and see if she can figure out how we get the Laker bundle to hook up to it. And
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Yeah. Also, when we turn in, do we turn in the homework or the whole thing we did the class?
Don't turn anything in this week. So next week I'll change the. Here, I'll show you. Don't do it right now, right in front of you. How about that? So this is nope, that's something different. Nope, that's something different too. So I'm going to go into this assignment. So I'm going to change this to. This is due Friday, February 9th. And also I gotta change it down here. But this way, yeah, I'll show you exactly what this. So if you look at this, there's unlimited attempts. You can do as many as you want. And take the highest grade. And so this is, and again, I'll back this up, and we'll turn this all in at once. So we definitely finish it up next week, and then we'll turn it in, and we'll turn it all in together. But nothing to turn in this week, and next week we'll finish it up and turn it in. And next week I'll send out the chapter 1 and 2 exam. It's going to be very similar to the stuff we do in the handout or in the problem that we just did, or that we're going to do, I should say. Any questions? No one's saying anything.
No questions.
They'll keep talking. All right. Well, I will see you guys in a week's time, and I will hopefully get this Laker bundle thing figured out as soon as possible. And I apologize for that. But okay. Questions?
Professor, do we have to do problem 3 and 4 too?
No, good, excellent question. 3 and 4 we'll do next time. 3 and 4 have the missing number problem, and there's a couple different ways to do those, but we will do those next class.
Okay.
So only 239. Yeah, only 239.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. Have a good day, guys.
Yep, bye-bye.
Next time.
Go on.